When most people hear the word cholesterol, they simply freak out. We have been conditioned to believe that cholesterol is associated with heart disease, blocked arteries, and premature death. But that is a simplified and outdated way of looking at human biology. So cholesterol is not a villain. It is an essential component of life itself. In this video, I want to unpack the truth about cholesterol, LDL, which is low-density lipoprotein, HDL, which is high-density lipoprotein, triglycerides, and fasting insulin, and how they work, what they really mean, and how diet profoundly shapes their balance. By the end, you will understand why cholesterol behaves differently on a low-carbohydrate diet and why it behaves differently on high-carbohydrate diets, and why the simple ratio between triglycerides and HDL can tell you much more about your metabolic health than any single number on your blood test. I'm Dr. Nash Jocic, former bodybuilding champion. I competed 46 times and won 17 titles. I have been in bodybuilding for over 40 years, and during that time I have coached personally over 3,500 clients and helped them to get in the best shape of their lives. I have also published 10 ebooks which are fully loaded with detailed explanation about everything you always wanted to know about bodybuilding, like muscle growth, fat loss, training for beginners, competitive bodybuilding, nutrition, lifestyle change, and similar topics. So if you want to expand your knowledge and widen your horizons, please click on the link in the comments and you have access to my ebooks. So let us get into the topic now. So what cholesterol really is? Cholesterol is a fat-like substance found in every single cell of the human body. It's simply essential, and without cholesterol, we wouldn't be able to exist. So even if you don't eat cholesterol at all in your food, if you're cholesterol-free diet, your body will still produce necessary amount of cholesterol, which is roughly between 1,000 and 1,500 milligrams per day. And the reason for that is simply because cholesterol is simply essential for life. So cholesterol performs three critical functions. So number one, it stabilizes the strength and strengthens cell membrane, so giving them the flexibility to function. So the health of every cell basically depends on the viscosity of the membrane, of the wall, cellular wall. So that membrane has to be permeable, so basically the nutrients have to come easily inside and byproducts, toxins come outside the cell. So without cholesterol, that viscosity is not going to be there. And this is why when people have low cholesterol for a long period of time, they are very prone to different metabolic diseases. Also, cholesterol serves as a raw material for hormone production. Hormones like testosterone, estrogen, cortisol, progesterone, aldosterone, all begin with cholesterol. So cholesterol is a building block for all these hormones. It's absolutely essential for this purpose. And also is a precursor for vitamin D and bile acid that help digest fat. So in one of my previous videos, I talk about importance of vitamin D. So again, low cholesterol, very limited production of vitamin D in the body, which is really harmful. So cholesterol is not an enemy, it's the foundation of hormonal and metabolic balance. What really matters is how it travels through your bloodstream and in what form. So let me tell you a few words now about the LDL, low-density lipoprotein, and HDL, high-density lipoprotein. LDL and HDL are not cholesterols. They are carriers. They're proteins. They carry cholesterol. So because cholesterols and fat, they don't dissolve in water, your body packages them in lipoproteins. They are tiny transporters made of fat and protein. So there are two main kinds which are relevant for our discussion. And this is LDL, which delivers cholesterol from the liver into the tissues that need it. Then HDL does the reverse, basically collects cholesterol from tissues and artery walls and returning it to the liver for recycling or elimination. So LDL is the carrier that drives cholesterol to the tissues that need it, while HDL is taking them back from the tissues where they are surplus and brings them back to the liver for recycling or elimination. So we need both of them, but basically LDL and HDL, they're both necessary. One delivers, the other one collects. So the problems arises when this system is out of balance, and when LDL particles, now remember this, well, LDL particles become damaged. So LDL itself is not a problem. The problem is damaged LDL. Now there are two types of LDL. There is a small, dense LDL versus large, flaky LDL. So what is the difference? Small, dense LDL is tiny, hard particles that can slip into the artery wall. They can become oxidized and trigger inflammation. So this is the problem. This is the small, dense LDL. Large, buoyant LDL is light, fluffy, and it floats easily and is far less risky to cause any damage. So remember this, there are two types of LDL, small dense LDL, which can penetrate arteries and cause inflammation, and there is a large buoyant LDL, which is fluffy and floats easily without causing any damage to the arteries. Now, people with insulin resistance, high triglycerides, or inflammation tend to have more small, dense LDL. Once again, people with insulin resistance, high level of triglycerides, or inflammation tend to have more small, dense LDL, which is dangerous. People on a low-carb diet with low triglycerides and good metabolic health tend to have large, buoyant LDL. So this is very important to understand. And this is why looking at the total LDL can be misleading. When you do a blood test, you'll usually get first information is total cholesterol. So it's either normal or it's high. So if it's high, the first is fear just jumps out. And whoever is your doctor or whoever did the blood test will warn you, oh, your cholesterol is high. We have to discuss that. Total cholesterol is high. But this is not necessarily the full picture. Higher LDL number does not necessarily mean higher risk. It depends on the particle type and metabolic context. So, as I explained, there are two types of LDL, and if your LDL is high, that doesn't mean that you're in higher risk. That means that you need to understand that maybe buoyant, fluffy LDL, which is harmless, is the one which is high. And this is usually the case in low carb, people who follow low-carb diets. So let me tell you my story. Let me give you first-hand experience, right? So in 2021, I had COVID, and obviously I did a blood test after everything was sorted, and I started getting better. I wanted to do my blood test and check my metrics to see what is happening with me metabolically. And as you can see, this is in Serbian, is in Cyrillic. But what is important there, if you look at the cholesterol, the total cholesterol was 10.8. This is quite high, according to the common agreement on cholesterol, which should be under 5. What is important to understand, you can see there is the triglycerides are 0.9. This is very low. And triglycerides is the one that you don't want high in your blood. While HDL is 2.7. And this is very high. So recommended dose is, recommended level is 1.6 to 1.5. And mine was 2.7. While LDL was 7.6 and should have been under 4. Right? So at the first sight, I was worried, but then I took everything into my own hands and I wanted to understand what is this. So I started reading books, articles, doing the research, started talking to experts, got myself a few books. I found only 2 here with me, which are great books, and you can also consider reading them if you are interested more in detail about cholesterol. This is High Cholesterol Con, The Great Cholesterol Con, and the other one is The Great Cholesterol Myth. So these 2 books, but there are more, I just couldn't find them, and obviously a lot of articles as well published on the subject and discussions that you can also find on great discussions on YouTube. I realized actually that although my LDL was high, that shouldn't be a problem, because I realized that LDL doesn't mean that it's a bad thing, because most likely because I was on low carbohydrate diet, high protein, medium fat diet, my LDL was high, but then my triglycerides are very low and HDL was 2.7. Now, what is more important is to understand that the ratio between triglycerides and HDL should be under 2, and even 2 to 5 is considered to be very good. Now, if you look at the ratio of my metrics there, triglycerides are 0.9 and HDL is 2.7. So the ratio is not under 2, is 0.33. So this tells you how good was my metabolic health. This ratio basically explained everything regarding this particular blood test done in April 2021. And now I will show you another one which is done in, you can see this one is done here in London Medical Diagnostics, is done in December 2022. Now I wanted to check again. I was on again high protein, medium fat, low carb diet, and again my cholesterol, total cholesterol, is now a bit high, but triglycerides are again very low, 0.91, and my HDL is 1.28. So the ratio again between triglycerides and HDL is not only under 2, is 0.7. So you see the consistency, the results are consistent in this case. Now another test I did in same laboratory, that was in April 2023. Now again my total cholesterol is even higher. Triglycerides are 1.09, while HDL is 1.38. The ratio again is 0.75. Is absolutely phenomenal. It's perfect. This is what you want, not necessarily that number which is in red. Oh, LDL is too high, 5.94. But it doesn't matter. Now the third test, because I'm, when I do something, I want to do it really detailed, consistently. I want to prove to myself that things are really going in that direction. So it wasn't one test enough for me. I did few. So if I get the same results over the period of years, then obviously I have cemented something which is fundamental, which is consistent. So this test was done in March 2025. Now total cholesterol is 8.18, right? It's high. Triglycerides are 1.08 and HDL cholesterol is 1.44. So when you again put this in the ratio, you're getting the ratio which is under 0.7. So it's far below recommended 2. So the ratio is super good. Now I have basically clarified this story about high cholesterol and ratio between triglycerides and HDL in my case. So I advise you to do the same thing. Do your blood test regularly, and you will basically get a nice picture about what is going on in your body, on your metabolic level, if you are on high protein, high fat or medium fat, low carbohydrate diet. Now I just want to show you measurements, UCAR measurements and recommended levels, and you can see that LDL measurement optimal is now under 2.6. Borderline is 3.4 to 4. So mine is 6, 7, whatever. High is over 4 and very high is over 5. So I'm basically over high. I'm very high because these are recommended ones, but they don't take into consideration your diet and how diet influences your metabolic health. Now, when it comes to HDL, you can see the levels. Normal is low is under 1, normal and good 1.3, 1.5, and then optimal 1.5. Excellent is 1.8. When it comes to triglycerides, again you have optimal under 1, normal 1 to 1.7. Mine were always either 1 or under 1, and the rest is there. Now you have triglycerides to HDL ratio, best overall indicator of metabolic health. So this is now the crux of the problem, right? So if it's under 1, which was my case in every single blood test that I've done and I've shown you, and it went from 0.3 to 0.7. Under 1 is excellent. Low insulin resistance, a small dense LDL, very unlikely. So you see that the ratio will indicate which type of LDL you actually have in your blood. But they don't say that in the previous measurements, in the previous recommendation. Now, if it's between 1 and 2, is good, is healthy range. And if it's between 2 and 3, this is borderline, and over 3 is poor, indicates high insulin resistance. So in my case, because of my diet, which has been for decades now high protein, medium fat, low carbs, my ratio between triglycerides and HDL was more than excellent. And that indicated low insulin resistance and very unlikely presence of small, dense LDL, which I explained can be dangerous, can penetrate endothelium of arterial walls and also cause oxidation and inflammation there. So there is another factor, there is another measurement which is extremely important. It's not necessary, because if your HDL, triglycerides HDL ratio is good, this is not necessary, but it's very good to have. I've done it in a couple of occasions, I just couldn't find it. My fasting insulin, which directly reflects your insulin sensitivity, was 1.2. Now you can see on this list, UK measurements, that optimal insulin for insulin sensitivity, which suggests excellent metabolic health, is actually 2 to 5. Mine was 1.2. I mean, this is not a miracle. I don't do anything special. I'm just following the diet, which indicates all these excellent markers. So you can see that the optimal range is 2 to 5. Good normal is 6 to 8. I was on 1.2, right? So you see what diet can do to your metabolic, to your health in general. And let me just remind you once again, you have the table here. These are the ideal combinations. So this is again in UK measurements. And what is important, LDL, I don't consider LDL, I mean, for people on low carbohydrate, high protein, high fat or medium fat diet, I don't consider this relevant. This is maybe for people who are on different type of diets. But HDL, this is right. It should be over 1.5. Triglycerides should be under 1. And triglycerides HDL, this is ideal combination, should be under 1. I will remind you again, my triglycerides HDL ratio in all 4 tests was from 0.3 to 0.7. And ideal here is under 1. When it comes to fasting insulin, ideal combination is 2 to 5. Mine was 1.2. So this indicates what kind of insulin sensitivity my body had consistently showing in these 4 blood tests in 5 years. So now, guys, for you who are in US, I'm going to put this table of measurements, and you can check that, obviously, and do everything I said about. Although you have that, there are measurements in UK in millimoles. UK measurements separated, so you can compare. But this is for US viewers, so you can check your blood test, and you can apply what I've said directly to your readings. Let me tell you why LDL often raises on a low-carb diet. Because people come to me, there are quite few of you who said to me, oh, I started following this diet, but my cholesterol went up, my LDL is too high, oh my God, what is happening? This diet is not good for me. But now I'm going to explain to you what happens. Actually, I have already explained that to you, but let me come back now in few more details, basically unravel the story about higher LDL if you are on a low-carb diet. Why this happens? So when carbohydrate intake drops, insulin levels fall, and your metabolism shifts from burning sugar to burning fat. Now the liver, because you're burning more fat, the liver releases more fatty acids and cholesterol into circulation as energy carriers. Now LDL raises because there are simply more fat-based energy molecules in transit in your bloodstream. So somebody needs to take them and transport them. And this is why LDL raises. But this is the crucial detail. On a low-carb diet, LDL is typically large and buoyant and not small, dense, that causes inflammation in the arteries and problem. At the same time, when you're on a low carbohydrate diet, what happened? Exactly what happened to me. Your triglycerides levels drop, and your HDL raises. So basically, you are improving your triglycerides HDL ratio, which is the real indicator of cardiovascular health. So yes, LDL may go up numerically, but the risk profile actually improves. So why is that rise in LDL harmless? LDL becomes dangerous when it's oxidated or glycated, damaged by sugar and inflammation. So this process occurs predominantly in people who have chronically high insulin levels, high blood sugar, and high triglycerides. And all these conditions are created by high carbohydrate diets and poor metabolic health. So oxidation and glycation of LDL happens in people who have chronically elevated insulin levels, high blood sugar, and high triglycerides, all created by high carbohydrate diets. On a low carbohydrate diet, once again, inflammation markers like CRP are typically low, blood sugar stabilizes, and insulin drops, creating a biochemical environment in which LDL is far less likely to oxidize and harm arteries. So apparent LDL rise in low carbohydrate context is a sign of fat utilization, not of any pathology. So now what happens on a high carb diet? High carb, low fat diet. When dietary carbohydrate intake is too high, the liver is flooded with glucose. So excess glucose is then converted into triglycerides through the process called the nuovo lipogenesis. This leads to the higher triglycerides level in the blood and more small, dense LDL particles. So remember this, when you're on high carbohydrate diet, the liver is flooded with glucose. Now, during the process called the nuovo lipogenesis, that glucose is converted into triglycerides. And your ratio between triglycerides and HDL actually becomes worse because you have more triglycerides. Now, at the same time, your HDL levels, which are high-density lipoprotein, which are the cleanup crew, that drops. And the result is, again, poor triglycerides HDL ratio, even if the total LDL looks normal. So remember that. So your readings can be fine, your LDL is fine, but your triglycerides are high and your HDL is low. So typical high-carb diet can indeed lower your LDL temporarily, numerically, but it is simultaneously lowers HDL and increases triglycerides. Now, let me tell you something about the role of insulin in the lipid metabolism. So insulin is a master metabolic regulator. When insulin is high, and is often on a high carb diet, and the fat burning is suppressed. So your body stays in the storage mode. I spoke about that so many times in my nutritional videos. So what chronically elevated insulin causes? It causes more triglyceride synthesis in the liver, reduces HDL production, and causes a greater conversion of LDL into small, dense particle. And also, elevated insulin causes more oxidative stress on the arteries. So, low insulin level, which obviously happen if you are on a low carbohydrate diet, cause exactly the opposite. They allow body to efficiently metabolize and burn fat. And this is why the most protective pattern is, and remember this, low triglycerides, high HDL, and low fasting insulin. So this is the golden key for superb metabolic health. There is something that I want to tell you also about longevity, and it's very interesting how cholesterol is linked to longevity. So there are many multiple studies have been done on the looking at older population that have shown something very interesting and consistent. People with higher total cholesterol often live longer than those with very low cholesterol. Now, there are many researches done, and I'll just mention few. There was a Honolulu Heart program where over 3,500 men were followed for 20 years, and they found that those with higher total cholesterol live longer and had lower overall mortality. Then you have Framingham studies, which initially linked cholesterol to heart disease and later reported that after age of 50, cholesterol levels ceased to predict mortality, and those with low cholesterol actually had higher death rates. And also there were several European and Japanese studies that have found the same. Among elderly population, low cholesterol is consistently linked to frailty, cancer, and higher all-cause mortality. So in many long-lived groups, higher cholesterol levels are associated with longevity. So why is that happening? What is cholesterol doing? Why is it so important? So cholesterol is not just a structural fat. This is also a healing molecule and an immune system component. So cholesterol, first of all, supports the immune system. LDL carries antioxidants and neutralizes bacterial toxins. People with low LDL are more prone to infection than inflammation. Then, two, cholesterol is needed for hormone production. As we know, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, vitamin D, they all start from cholesterol. And low cholesterol mean poor hormonal balance and weaker stress resilience. Now, number 3, cholesterol repairs damaged tissue. This is my overall cholesterol was high when I had COVID. Actually, I had pneumonia, and obviously the body needed to recover the tissue in the lungs, so it needed more cholesterol. It is a part of repair system for cell membranes and arteries, and chronically low cholesterol can impair that. Number 4, cholesterol protects against cancer. Some studies have shown that low cholesterol often appears before cancer develops, so suggesting it is a marker of illness, not protection. Now, after I've said everything about this, how can we actually improve our lipid profile naturally? So number 1 thing is to reduce refined carbohydrates, sugar, flours, sweetened drinks, and processed grains. And obviously overall carbohydrate intake. Increase in natural fat, eggs, fish, meat, butter, avocado, olive oil. Protein should be emphasized for satiety and muscle preservation. Exercise should be done regularly because it increases HDL and lowers triglycerides. Sleep and managing stress is number 5. Cortisol imbalance elevates insulin and triglycerides. And obviously avoid smoking and excessive alcohol because both of them reduce HDL and oxidize LDL. So these 6 practices should help you improve naturally your lipid profile. What is the advantage of low carbohydrate diets? So once on low carbohydrate diets, your insulin gets stabilized, and there are 3 predictable things that can happen. First is triglycerides, they plummet. So once on low carbohydrate diet, your triglycerides go down, your HDL goes up, meaning again that most important ratio between triglycerides and HDL will be very favorable. Number 3, LDL particle size shifts towards large buoyant forms. So your LDL, although it may go up, it will be made of harmless, fluffy, buoyant LDL, not small, dense LDL, which actually happens on high carbohydrate diets. This is obviously the reason why many cardiologists now who specialize in the metabolic health now look first on triglycerides, HDL ratio, and fasting insulin, not just total LDL. So let me now summarize everything that I've said so far and give you a few points to take away. Number 1, cholesterol is vital. It builds hormone, vitamin D, and cell membranes. Number 2, LDL and HDL are transporters, not the villains or heroes. Both are essential. Number 3, LDL type matters. Small, dense LDL means higher risk, while large, fluffy, lower risk. Number 4, low-carb diets may raise LDL but usually improve all other markers. Number 5, the triglycerides to HDL ratio is your best quick sign of metabolic health. Try to be under 2. Number 6, fasting insulin should ideally stay below 5, but this is for US. In UK measurements, fasting insulin should be under 2. Number 7, high-carb diets, usually they often lower total LDL, but worsen the lipid pattern. HDL goes down, triglycerides up, and LDL becomes small and dense. And number 8, focus on insulin control, nutrient quality, and inflammation reduction. Don't fear cholesterol itself. So cholesterol doesn't cause disease, it responds to it. When the body is inflamed, insulin resistant, and sugar burdened, cholesterol transport becomes distorted. When the body is metabolically calm, fat adapted, and hormonally balanced, cholesterol performs its proper role, supporting life, energy, and recovery. So instead of asking, how do I lower my cholesterol? You should ask, how do I improve my metabolic environment? So guys, I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and If you did, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, and send me your comments. Also, let me remind you again that I have published 10 books which are fully loaded with detailed information about everything that you always wanted to know about bodybuilding and healthy living, healthy eating. So things like muscle growth, fat loss, competitive bodybuilding, natural bodybuilding, training for beginners, nutrition, healthy eating, lifestyle change, they're all covered in my ebooks. So if you want to widen your horizons and deepen your knowledge, please click on the link below and you can access my ebooks. Also, please watch this video in which I introduce my other services and the ways that I can work with you one-to-one and help you to get in the best shape of your life. Things like personalized training programs, personalized nutritional program, telephone consultations, and online coaching are all explained in that video. So until the next video, I wish you all the best.